Mind and body, body and mind. One of the most interesting things I learnt while attending Vinh Giang's stage workshop was the connection that our mind has to our body and our body has to our mind. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So, this is specifically in the context of presenting. And this is also specifically in the context of feeling nervous versus feeling confident. So, what I learned during the workshop was that when we're presenting and we tend to feel more nervous or anxious, that feeling in our mind has an influence on what our body does when we present. And here are some ways in which. Thanks, Lila. Here are some ways in which a nervous mind can affect the body, i.e., these are the things your audience will experience when you're presenting. Thing number one, your rate of speech will increase. It kind of makes sense, right? When we tend to feel nervous, we tend to speak faster. I know I tend to do that, and I tend to use the word tend a lot when I'm nervous, so maybe I'm nervous right now. Yeah, so when we feel nervous, the speed at which we talk tends to increase, and we tend to speak with less gaps in our speech. So we tend to use less pauses as well. So that's two things. So rate of speech goes up and the amount of pauses you use goes down. The next thing is physically with our body, our posture is affected too. So when you're calm and confident, your knees tend to be less likely to be fully locked in. So what that means is, if this is your leg, your knee tends to be more fully locked in, whereas when you're more calm, your knee has a bit of a bend. Interesting. I don't know how true that is. And actually, I can't remember if Finn actually said that that was a connection, but that's something that I think could be a connection between mind and body, body and mind. The next thing, which does make sense, that he put forward was that when we tend to feel nervous, the distance between our shoulders and our ears tends to decrease. So what that means is obviously our ears don't physically drop because that can't happen, but our shoulders can move. And when we feel nervous, our shoulders tend to increase in height. So they kind of go up, right? And I've seen this happen to people, and I personally know that I have done this in the past. The next thing is that when we are nervous, we tend to slouch a bit more in terms of our posture, so our shoulders tend to fall forward a little bit more. But the interesting thing about all of these things is that the reverse is also true. So it's empowering knowing this information. What I mean by that is we can manipulate our body when we're feeling nervous in order to make us feel less nervous when we present. Here's what I mean. If you're about to present and you know you are shitting bricks and you're feeling a little bit nervous before presenting, or for example, leading a team meeting, intentionally check in with yourself to first acknowledge that nervousness and then know that there are certain tools that you can use to calm your nerves and thus appear more composed when you speak, and this will help you gain some of your confidence back. So, first thing, I spoke about the rate of speech, right? So, with your rate of speech, when you are feeling nervous, intentionally make sure that you don't speak too fast. Instead, give yourself permission to speak a little bit slower. And I guarantee you, I've tried this as well. When I give myself permission to speak slower, not super slow, but just slower than you normally would, you start to feel a bit more calm and composed, because now as your rate of speech is lower, you've now got time to actually process your thoughts, right? And you can think a bit more clearly. And as that happens, guess what? You start to get a bit more confidence back, I believe. The next thing is pauses. When you don't feel too confident or you feel a bit more nervous than you normally are, give yourself permission to firstly use pauses before answering a question, and also give yourself permission to use pauses in your speech. Because when you do so, it's going to just, like when you're nervous, everything kind of just goes crazy in your head. But when you give yourself permission to actually pause and you do the pause, it gives you time to actually breathe, and it like kind of manipulates your mind in a way to feel more confident and more composed. It's interesting, right? Like I do really think that this happens, and it happens to me. The next thing that I mentioned was the knee locking thing. So if you're feeling nervous, check in with your knees. Do they have a slight bend? If they don't, allow for a slight bend. And I don't mean like with a strong bend. I mean a very, very slight bend, because when your knees are fully locked, it feels very uncomfortable. I don't know how to explain it, but I tried it the other day. I locked my knees while standing and I tried to talk, and I was like, whoa, this feels really weird. So make sure your knees are slightly unlocked, and that will have a little bit of an impact on how you feel in here when you present. And the last thing is, like, check in with the distance between your ears and your shoulders, i.e., check in to see if your shoulders are raised. Because if your shoulders are a little bit raised, it is telling you, it is your body saying that it is feeling a little bit nervous. So intentionally, like, breathe in, pull your shoulders back a little bit and drop them. Let them just fall. And you're going to find that by keeping your shoulders down as well while you're presenting intentionally, you will also it will also help you feel a little bit more calm and confident. So obviously, these things aren't guaranteed to just fix your confidence, but these little tweaks in your body and in your vocal speech that you make, if you make these little tweaks, it will only work in your favor to help you get your confidence back while you are speaking, right? And if you can take these little wins and these little things actually help you in the moment feel a little bit better, why wouldn't you do it, right? And everyone is different. Everyone's body and mind works differently. So you may find that this advice doesn't actually work with you, and that's fine. But I'm sure for every person that it doesn't work for, there is going to be one person that it does work for, because it works for me. And what are the chances that if it works for me, it may not work for you? I think it's very low. I think the chances are it may do something for you. So the point of this video is that there is a connection between your mind and your body, i.e., when you're feeling a certain way in your mind, it affects how your body behaves, not just in the way your body moves, but in the way you speak. But the reverse is also true. You can intentionally change the way your body behaves, i.e., the way you speak or the way your body moves, to influence how you feel here. And then, interestingly, as a result, because now you're feeling this way, it will influence the way your body behaves again. So you can manipulate your body into performing better when it comes to presenting. But that doesn't mean, it doesn't take away from the fact that you still need to practice for your presentations, you need to rehearse, and you need to genuinely know and understand the stuff that you're talking about. It doesn't mean that you can fake your way into being a good presenter. You still need to know your stuff, but presentation skills are a totally different thing. And yeah, this is just one thing that I learned from attending Vinh Giang's workshop. So I thought I would share it with you. Have a wonderful day.